Okay, good morning. Programming 11. We are going to be working on some object-oriented puzzles today. I'm going to be showing you a couple of patterns, and you're going to try and make them. You're going to have to make the main tab and the class. So it'll be similar to what we did with the snowflake exercise, where we made a snowflake class and then the array lists and that sort of thing for driving all that, hundreds or thousands of snowflakes. We'll do the same kind of thing here as well. So I'm going to show you the pattern that we're going to work on today. We got a set of ripples that are rippling almost as if you're looking at a pond of water and it's raining and each raindrop will make a little splash. Just so you know, I don't necessarily expect you to be able to make the fade away. I'll show you how. It's using opacity to in the stroke function when you use two parameters. There's like white and then an opacity, and 255 is, I believe it's solid and 0 is invisible. So that's what we're doing there, but I'll show you more. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at what's going on here. I'll run it again one more time just from the beginning and see if you can, using your snowflake as inspiration, the snowflake class and the whole sketch that you wrote, use that as inspiration and see if you can make a new sketch with a new class that recreates this. So think about a few things. Think about, what numbers does each ripple need to keep track of? And then think about what are their initial positions when the sketch first starts. Think about what actions they take and think about what is the code to make them show. So I want you to pause the video, go try this. Take at least 10 minutes to give it a shot. If you get frustrated, you're welcome to go back and look at the snowflake class we wrote as an example. After you've worked on it, if you got stuck, then make a mental note of what is it that you are not certain about. And then come back and watch the rest of the video to see how it was made and get those questions answered. If by the end of this video you still don't have those questions answered, please let me know and I would love to assist you. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to assume you have paused and tried at this point. Now we begin the lesson of how to make this work. I guess I'll start in the main tab. The main tab is almost identical to our snowflake class, which you can get on my website with a link to a GitHub repository. So first of all, we need the array list of Ripple objects, or our class is called Ripple. There's all my, this is the name of the list. And then we just instantiate the new list. This is like, you're about to take a sushi order. You got to write down all the different sushi that everybody wants to order. But first you got to grab a piece of paper. It's sort of like grabbing your piece of paper. This makes the list brand new. So you can start, adding items to the list. And then we have this while loop, which is basically start at 0, go up by 1, stop at 100, where we're just adding new Ripple objects to the list. So that's what happens in void setup. Your void setup is very much just this here. Void draw has a similar loop. Check it out. Ooh, a little too far. We have to have background at 0. Background 0 is important for the fact that it clears the animation frame. Otherwise, we would just see all the ripples in every single frame kind of adding on top of each other. And then here's our loop, same structure, right? Start at 0, go up by 1, keep going until you get to 100. But now what we do is we check out a ripple, like taking a library book off a shelf. Here's the number we use to access a particular ripple. Here's the name that we're going to give it temporarily. And then we tell that ripple to act and show. And then we go on to the next ripple the next time over. Okay, so that is the basic structure. And you know what? Turns out this is going to be your main tab just about every single time as we do these puzzles. And it's just a very famous loop and will basically allow you to go from beginning to end. Eventually, we'll start adding in new things like removing objects that have, some expired in some way. Maybe they have 0 hit points or something. But this is the basic structure for what we're going to use. The class in the second tab here, that's where things get a little more unique, and this is where you make most of your changes, is in the Ripple class. So in Ripple, we have, here's our instance variables. You don't have to, if you solved it without opacity or alpha or whatever you want to call this, it's totally fine. If it doesn't fade away, it's totally fine. But I'll show you how to do it just so you know. It has nothing to do with object-oriented programming though, so it's just a fun little additional add-on for fun. Here is X and Y. This is every ripple needs to know where it is. This is debatable if you need a speed or not. Every ripple changes at the same speed, so if you hard-coded this in, that's fine. But I made it a variable. Here is the size of the ripple. That's definitely changing. It's growing. Now, here's the initial values. I randomize the X and Y, and I randomize the size as well. If you don't randomize the size, then they all grow at the same rate, so then they all get to their maximum size at the same time, and you just get this like synchronized ripples that always all disappear at the same time and recreate at the same time. So you got to randomize all three of these things, and I just chose 200 as the maximum size. Doesn't really matter what number you chose here, so that's the one I chose. Speed, I just have every ripple growing by 2 pixels per frame. So now I have my act function. So here's where I grow. This is just the code where my size increases each frame. And then if it gets to a certain size, I tell it to reform somewhere else. I teleport it somewhere randomly, and then I set the size back to 0 again because it's starting almost as if, you know, the water is just being kissed by a raindrop, and it's just beginning as it gets recycled. So that's the act function. Here's the show function. This is how I'm doing the alpha. I am looking at the size of the ripple, and basically a tiny ripple that's just beginning is going to have complete solid, no transparency whatsoever. And at the very end of its life, when it gets to its maximum size, it's going to be completely transparent. Somewhere in between, I'm going to map wherever it is between in this range to somewhere in between this range, and then record that in A. And then if you put A into the stroke function to change the outline color, then it's going to be white, but then we'll apply this transparency to it. And of course, it's just an ellipse. The way I get the ellipse to be sort of slanted is by dividing the size by 2 for the height. And there you go. That is our ripples, and I hope that was, I don't expect anyone to have necessarily gotten it from the beginning, but hopefully by trying it and then pausing the video and then seeing the answer, you were able to understand things a little bit better. So if you've done this one, please go on to the next video. We're going to make some spikes. Quick preview of the spikes. Here's the spikes. Whoa. Spikes. Check it out. Next video. Thank you.